Watch this.
It is Earth Day. It's a day to think about our impact on the planet and maybe tweak a few things, to help us stay on it. Recycling is supposed to help, but has the Orange Bag program been doing that? We're just about a month away from the May primary, and your mailbox has probably seen its fair share of contributions from campaigns. You might have seen some stuff that is questionable. We're going to try to answer that, too.
There you go! Fight him, not the weapon!
It's not your typical knight in shining armor. Rather, it's a certified MMA fight. And the armor isn't so shiny, especially after these people get done with it. It began after a senator from Wisconsin saw an oil spill off the coast of California, which turned into a teaching moment on college campuses across the country. Since 1970, Earth Day, which is today, has become a global event, a day to remind everyone the Earth is worth cleaning up and preserving before it's too late. Reduce, reuse, recycle became a mantra born of those early days of addressing Earth's ills. And recycling is one of those things many of us try to do, with the blue bins and the orange bags. But is it worth our time and effort? It's a question we get often here at the 208 at KTVB. And so we got a question a few weeks ago from Joe, in Boise. Time to look into the orange bag and recycling issues. Hefty has changed the name, shrunk the bag size, and now sells fewer per container of bags. Seems like Hefty wants to force folks to not participate. You might also want to see what the city of Boise is doing about this. It's their landfill we're supposed to be saving, says Joe. Well, it's actually the Ada County landfill. So to answer Joe from Boise's question, let's bring in another Joe from Boise. I do believe it's still Boise.
No, I don't live there in Boise anymore.
Not in Boise.
I moved. That's okay.
Treasure Valley.
Treasure Valley,
still
Joe.
works.
Yeah.
Okay, so I want you to answer this on this Earth Day, looking into whether or not these orange bags are doing what they're supposed to be doing.
So, okay, here's the thing is I think a lot of people maybe have lost track of this program over the last several years. So here are some updates that I did want to mention. As Joe in Boise said, Hefty did change the physical orange bags for the Hefty Renew program, or the orange bag program. They used to be what I would describe as a cheaper looking flap tie bag, but now they're drawstring bags, probably like one you have at home, but they're orange. And the boxes do contain 20 bags. They used to have 26. So there has been some changes to the program as it evolves, but I did check in on what was once a pilot program with big hopes here in the Treasure Valley. Now it's a growing national effort. Going the extra mile is what can make a difference in life. And when it comes to the health of our planet Earth, there is an effort to recycle more than ever before.
It truly can be trash to treasure.
Catherine Chertuti is a consultant with the Hefty Renew program, an example of one of these newer programs. And you may know it as the Orange Bag Initiative across the Treasure Valley. It's been here for several years. Now, people are asked to go out and buy specific orange Hefty bags from the local market, and they can collect hard-to-recycle plastics. And those orange bags, they go in with regular recycling and are sorted out and shipped to a new life.
Both mechanical recycling to make new products, durable goods in particular, but also being used to offset the use of coal in cement production. We are still sending some materials to California to Bifusion for the blocks. And we have the bench here in Boise at Manitou Park.
So what was once a pilot program in our area has now grown to 9 American cities across the country, including a new one just this month in Tucson, Arizona.
We just have to find the innovators and the new uses and the new opportunities out there across the country.
Hard-to-recycle materials are also being sent to new end-of-market adventures.
We also have been sending some to test markets for things like lumber products, where they're made into new lumber. They've also been tested in a product that is used for stormwater management, water drainage. That is a amazing product that's even been approved by the California DOT for use in stormwater management in California. So we're trying a lot of new markets. That's what's been really fun about this program and working in this area is all of the emerging technologies and the innovation that's going on to try and make something durable and good out of these very hard to recycle plastics.
Chertuti adds that the Treasure Valley area, centered on Boise, continues to be a shining example of the program working. Still, there is plenty of room for improvement.
Boise area has at least a 15% participation rate, self-reported obviously out of that survey. The interesting thing is it's really hard to determine a participation rate because you can buy a package of bags, 20 bags could last you a year. You know, if you're using them, it takes about 2 to 3 weeks to fill a bag. So it's very hard to say how much participation we have, but it's very steady here. And my goal would be to double that. I'd like to see 30% participation in the Boise-Ada County area. And we're averaging about 22 to 25 tons a month out of this area that's going to these end markets.
So why not a refresher from the expert? How does this program operate?
Buy the package of bags from the local retailers. When it's full, you tie it up tight and you put it into your regular recycling. And all of that regular recycling goes to Western Recycling here in the Boise area. It's sorted out, they bale the materials, and as soon as they have a full load, which is usually about 20 to 22 bales, they call Hefty, and Hefty pays for all the shipping and sends those materials to the end market.
So one of those end markets, as they're called, is in north of Salt Lake City. And this is one that we get a lot of questions about. There are some headlines in the past about what's going on with the stuff sent to Salt Lake. As of today, I can tell you that part of the products that get collected here in the Boise area, they ended up at GeoCycle, which is on the Devil's Slide facility north of Salt Lake. And Brian, this is kind of like one of these concrete or kiln facilities where instead of burning some things to power the kiln to get the concrete going, they can take some of these hard to recycle plastics and they can power some of that stuff too. And something that you and I were talking about during the story in terms of like, well, sometimes the wrong thing ends up in these bags.
People don't take the time to put in the right stuff. They'll just throw it in there.
So I've been talking with the expert, talking with the manager of the program that we were just speaking with. They say that the Boise area, specifically the Treasure Valley area, has a very high rate of making sure that it's the correct items that are going through. This is what they call a shining example of the program working, again, only in 9 cities, but they hope to expand across the country.
And when you do make that mistake, it does go into the landfill eventually, though, right?
The ones that don't make it there will probably end up in a landfill somewhere, but the goal is to have nothing in the landfill.
All right. Thank you very much, Joe. Well, as the legislative session comes to an end, that usually marks the opening of election season, at least in even-numbered years here in Idaho. And that means street corners covered in campaign signs, ads on television. It also means mailers arriving at your home. And maybe you got this one last week. A red-lined, formal-looking letter with the words election notice, Republican absentee ballot request enclosed. And inside, there's a request form for an absentee ballot. Already filled out, and there's also a second one in case there's any part of your information that needs to change. It also tells you the steps you need to take to return it. It's pre-addressed, but it's not prepaid. You do have to attach the stamp yourself and make sure it gets to your county election office by close of business Friday, May 10th. Okay, so Sandy got that form last week, and she promptly sent us a text message without a question, or with a question, I should say. She said she got a Republican absentee ballot request in the mail, had her name, address, and voter ID on it, said she wasn't sure why she got it. She did see it was paid for by the Idaho Prosperity Fund, with whom she's not familiar. So Sandy's question was, any ideas? Well, that mailer does say it was paid for by the Idaho Prosperity Fund, with a quick Google search, you can find out. It's going to lead you to the Idaho Association of Commerce and Industry, otherwise known in political circles as IACI. So the Idaho Prosperity Fund is a political action committee of IACI, and their goal, they say, is to promote the improvement of government at the state and local levels. They say they encourage business owners and their employees to take a more active and effective role in government. They financially back statewide, legislative, and local candidates, those, they say, who show a commitment to a free market, free enterprise society. They also dabble in political issues of statewide significance. So far, this PAC has raised more than $871,000 from donors like Melaleuca, St. Luke's Health Plan, Blue Cross of Idaho, Idaho Power, that kind of stuff. Others may be wondering if this is a legit mailer. Something with your name, address, and voter ID might give some people some pause, like maybe their identity is in jeopardy. That information they can just get from party registration rolls. And this is nothing new. It's a common practice by candidates, parties, and PACs ahead of an election to send out these absentee request forms. Secretary of State's office told us today there's no government-issued form that has to be submitted for an absentee ballot. In fact, you can send in an absentee request on a cocktail napkin should you choose, as long as it has your name, your address, and of course, you have to sign it. And that's where the verification comes in, your signature. In Ada County, they said, for example, the signature on the request is verified against the voter's registration signature to confirm identity. Then, when it comes to the ballot, there are strict measures there as well to confirm a voter's identity when they actually turn in that absentee ballot. It's all explained on the Secretary of State's voter website, voteidaho.gov. Bottom line, if you get something in the mail and you're worried if it's legit or not, know that nothing is legit without your signature. And if you have any questions, contact your local elections office or, again, check out voteidaho.gov. So the deadline to request an absentee ballot, that's coming up on May 10th for the upcoming May 21st primary. But in order to vote absentee, you have to be registered. And that deadline to register is Friday, April 26th, this Friday. If you've already registered to vote as, say, I don't know, a libertarian, and you want to change your party affiliation to, say, Republican, to vote in that party's closed primary, well, that deadline is also this Friday. All others not voting absentee, not changing affiliations, you can register to vote online by this Friday, or you can do it on Election Day at the polls. Only, though, if you are not already registered. You cannot change your party at the polls on Election Day. So here's the breakdown. April 26th, deadline to register. May 10th, deadline to request an absentee ballot. May 21st, that's the primary election, where non-registered, non-affiliated can still register to vote. Absentee ballots also have to be returned to your county elections office by 8 p.m. that day. Tragedy over the weekend for the family of an Ada County deputy and the Ada County Sheriff's Office. Aspen Shumpert has the details of that deadly shooting and the rest of your 411.
There is absolutely no excuse or justifiable reason for this violence perpetrated against law enforcement officers.
27-year-old Ada County Sheriff's Deputy Tobin Bolter was shot and killed while making a traffic stop on Saturday night around 9. A witness saw the suspect shoot Bolter near Overland and Raymond Streets in Boise, then drive away. The 65-year-old suspect was later shot and killed after a confrontation with officers at a home on Jackson Street in Boise. Officers don't know why the suspect shot Deputy Bolter. Deputy Dallas Denny was on her way to the scene when she crashed. She has a fractured spine, broken pelvis, and facial injuries. She was released from the hospital last night. There is a candlelight prayer and visual for Deputy Bolter and Denny tomorrow night at 9 near the Hunters Creek Park flagpole in Star.
Do you believe she was influenced by Chad Daybell?
Yes.
Thank you.
Lori Vallow, Daybell's oldest and now only child, took the stand in day 8 of Chad Daybell's murder trial. Chad is accused of murdering 2 of Lori's children, JJ Vallow and Tylee Ryan, as well as his first wife, Tammy. Retired FBI agent Doug Hart also took the stand, again going over texts between Chad and Lori. He said Chad was the one who deemed people light and dark and used his supposed visionary powers to manipulate Lori. He also said Lori manipulated Chad in some ways. Tune into the news at 6 to hear more testimony from today. Also today, the U.S. Supreme Court is hearing arguments in a case out of Grants Pass, Oregon, about criminalizing sleeping in public spaces. Martin versus Boise established you can't criminalize being homeless if they have nowhere else to go. But 6 years ago, a group of homeless people filed a lawsuit against Grants Pass over the city's homeless camping laws, which included punishments of fines and/or jail time. At the time, the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals ruled in favor of the homeless. But Grants Pass is appealing to the highest court in the country to have that decision overturned. There should be a decision this summer. And that's the 411 on the 208. I'm Aspen Shumpert.
They look so good in chainmail, it's not Renaissance Fair. No, this isn't an epic rap battle, but it's a full-on MMA fight in full armor. Knights from around the country spent the day on the battlefield in the Treasure Valley. I'm sure you have many questions about armored combat, and so do we. So let's find out the answers together, shall we? In the meantime, text us any other questions or comments or concerns about any other part of today's show. 208-321-5614. Always include your name and the hashtag #the208. Then we'll see if we can share yours at the end of the show. You know, it's that time of year where we get outside, the weekend events open up around the valley, gets us outdoors to slough off our winter cabin fever and, of course, shed our winter clothes. Some families, though, at Lakeview Park in Nampa found themselves in unique territory and garb. On Saturday, Idaho Armored Combat hosted a sanctioned Boo Hurt tournament. Brought teams from Montana and Utah to the Gem State to fight in a public park until one man was left standing. What's a Boo Hurt tournament? Here's Andrew Bartline.
Where a Saturday morning scenery blends with hear ye, hear ye.
Definitely here to
A shilling for their thoughts
do my team proud.
shows a focus beyond the scorecard.
Force and impact.
They're chasing something
Timekeeper ready.
worth much more.
Fight!
Breathe and relax. Let's go!
Not adrenaline,
That's right. What's he gonna do?
not discipline.
Side step!
Ironically,
Stop fight! Stop fight! Good job, guys.
Clinton fights
Gold medal today, sir.
for friendship
You have to walk away at least with that respect.
and respect for whatever this is.
You know, medieval MMA.
It's where many fighters find their backgrounds.
Taekwondo, I did Shapalgi Kung Fu for a bit. I done Hapkido, a little bit of Jiu-Jitsu.
Now add a blacksmith to the mix.
I'm encased in steel, fighting with my friends.
Nice.
The safest thing I've done.
And William O'Keefe,
Yeah, this guy's being dudes.
he finds this is where it all comes together.
Your best friends tend to be the people you were just fighting with.
And why not meet the whole team at once?
The melee's where it really gets brutal, man.
5 new friends
Check every one.
in one breath.
Marshall's ready. Timekeeper ready. Fighters ready. Fight! He's trying to throw that hatchet around here so he can pull down on his head.
Headlock!
Watch their legs too.
It's just the beginnings of lifelong friendships.
Our sword fighting, I guess.
But Kelly Selmer's here for another eternal bond.
I guess I'm like preparing myself for the day my husband just like walks home like in a full like night outfit. Like, honey, this is what I'm doing now.
So far,
We're pretty nerdy.
they've just been experimenting with the gateway drugs.
My husband started playing Dungeons and Dragons a few months ago.
But once you're old enough,
We had foam swords, and I was also like 10.
it's time to try
Well,
the hard stuff.
I guess if everyone's consenting, then no arms are getting chopped off.
You swapping out a weapon?
All equipment must pass inspection.
That's good.
We do not want anything sharp on these blades. They're actually completely dull.
That ensures the fighters are focused on the one true task at hand.
5 dudes versus 5 dudes, last one standing.
My God. Weapons flying.
That's where the background in MMA comes into play.
There we go, body slam.
This is fine. Yeah, this is active. They're actively training. Okay, stop out!
You can't go for knees, no thrusting. That's like the one death that's happened in the sport.
A lesson learned
In the head.
Protect your melon, that's the most important part.
and a friendship earned. Because everybody has a plan until they get an axe in the mouth.
You're both at the end of your strings, you're putting it all in there. You learn each other at another level that most people don't get to learn.
Nice work. Jack, great fight, buddy.
The local team calls themselves the Idaho Rat Pack, and they did sweep the whole tournament. They had a guy who won the dual tournament, and then their team won the melee tournament, and that's the 5-on-5 stuff. I cannot stress this enough, Brian. It smells like a garage. It sounds like a car wreck, and it's just awesome.
Yeah. I mean,
And it looks like anarchy.
I mean, pickup basketball is an option. There's always that. You could just, but that is nuts. And I was just sitting here watching that, like the ringing in your ears after an afternoon spent doing that must last for days.
Yeah, probably. I mean, the helmets weigh like 20 pounds, so you're getting rocked around in there.
Oh my gosh. All right. Well, maybe they'll get a few more members. Like I said, the Gateway Games
Yeah. Starts with Dungeons and
Dungeons and
Dragons. Next thing you know, you're fighting in a park next to the swing set.
with a metal stick. All right. Thanks, Andrew.
All right, coming your way. Okay, as you probably noticed, the moon's getting pretty big, so the full moon is going to be tomorrow night. It's called the pink moon because of all of the pretty pink flowers that are all across the country and in bloom right now. So that's tomorrow night. It's not likely pink. I mean, it's kind of an orangish kind of, some people may interpret it as that, but it turns to white as it gets a little higher in the sky for later tomorrow. So anticipate that, look for it. Clear skies for the same evening for tomorrow night. We've got clear skies for tonight. The only situation is a few high clouds and a few showers that are just down here in northern Nevada. Shows that some of that could work its way up maybe on Wednesday. But a few high clouds for Tuesday night. Temperatures for tomorrow will be getting up into the 60s, near 70 degrees for most of the Magic Valley. Throughout the central mountains, you see temps 50s for the most part, but right around 60 degrees even for Haley. McCall tomorrow will be up to 61. Long Valley, temperatures mainly into the lower 60s and 72 degrees for Garden Valley. 74 in Ontario. As you look at these numbers for tomorrow, look how they're coming up. Yeah, temperature's going to rise at least 10 degrees, maybe even a little more than that. And as you look at the next 7 days, we're going to have a few light breezes tomorrow, just like we had today, but not too bad. Winds up to about 15 miles an hour. Then the winds will possibly pick up again as we get into Thursday and Friday, where we could have a few gusty winds. This could even be a thunderstorm. And like I said, into Wednesday, there could be a few sprinkles. If there is a shower or thunderstorm, it's mainly Friday. And the rest of the week, temperatures in the 60s.
All right, a minute or so to go on this Monday show. I got this question in from Judy in Garden City when it comes to the PAC that we were talking about earlier in the show. Did they offer to help any Democrats? This is the IACI PAC, by the way. Did they offer to help any Democrats or other parties get their absentee ballots, or just Republicans? Smells fishy to me. Well, I guess the question is if they have a commitment to the free market or free enterprise. Possibly. You can check it out. Sunshine laws are in effect here in Idaho. Look for that name in any of those, where they contribute, where they send their money. It's all there for you to see. At the beginning of the Orange Bag program, we were led to believe material we were putting in those bags would be used for biofuel production. Whatever happened to that? Alan wants to know. Well, that is true. There's 3 ways those things can be used. For the biofuel that you mentioned, as a fuel source in the production of a cement, or as a concrete aggregate. That's how it's recycled. So there's 3 options. Sometimes it goes from one, maybe not the other, or sometimes all 3. Caldwell City just began recycling just now. Bins delivered in April. Honest Onions, you'd think they were committed, that they committed heresy. We don't need none of them. There are earth-friendly programs over here. Thanks for the Orange Bag update, says Tam in Caldwell. Think a lot of us would like to see today's politicians kind of go at it like they did with those swords and armor. Well, maybe.